Slipping, buddy.
No, you're slipping. That's your job. What's up, Joe? We're live.
Oh no, I know. I was waiting for you to jump into something. No, I mean, look, I think I'll go in. I just really like the discussion with Sean, and it really kind of qualified for me a lot of sort of feelings that I've had. And we talk about where it is now, bottom or not, and we've always been anticipating one more kind of lurch down sometime in the future. And I love the way he kind of put it in a concept of, these bottoms are always typically around, what did he say, 20 weeks long?
Yeah.
And, here we are 8 weeks in. And I love the way he segmented around, accumulation versus trading.
Yep. And zoom out and, look at things from that perspective, the chart that he was showing us. I'll put it,
Yeah. So to me, it seems like, look, if you're not in at all and you're coming in again, I think that this is sort of this 2-month period, 3-month period where you could be opportunistically acquiring within that trading range of that band, which in Ethereum looked pretty dramatic. If I remember correctly, like 80%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, to me, I think, it's an opportunity, but anticipating that there, is probably going to be that one leg down somewhere, and it's going to be ugly, but it's going to be fast. And you just want to make sure you have your limit orders in for that when that hits. So you got to have dry powder. But it looks like it is time to start kind of accumulating for the next, up cycle or coin cycle for BTC. And everything follows that. So, with the halvening coming up again in 2024, I believe, it seems like, I started buying a little bit more yesterday myself.
Nice.
More on the usual suspects, but I was looking at Matrix Swap, which, I've been in for a while, and who's over there now on their advisory board is the guy from Charged Particles, Ben Lakoff, I believe.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to message him, just ask him, because he's a new addition to that advisory board. And so then lo and behold, I'm looking, and there's a place to single stake Matrix Swap tokens on their site for 60%, plus a share of DEX fees. So I was like, oh, wow. So we do need to talk to him. I wouldn't mind if you chat with him, probably more. I mean, I don't chat with him at all, but you probably do come across him. I was curious why he jumped in to advise Matrix Swaps. So
yeah, that's very interesting.
A good story. So, I'm looking around, and the same with Sif Chain. I bought a little more of that because it's the dominant DEX on, Atom Cosmos, underlying the multi-chain concept. So, I feel optimistic, but, not to where I feel like we're going to rip up from here, but just from, hey, if you're down, DCA at this point, if you're entering, stick a toe in the water, things like that. I think this is the time. So, and if you got in last December, and I know people like this, and they got just crushed, newbies, it really is time to kind of pick, dump the losers, pick some core stuff, and start accumulating when it makes sense.
I totally agree.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And look, we're in a little dip here today. Fear and greed's down to 31, and Bitcoin and ETH are down a little bit, $100 on ETH or so. And, Bitcoin's down a little bit. So I don't think that was, Sean was specifically talking about today, but, down, 1.17% for Bitcoin, 1.69% for Ethereum. So, if you're wanting to DCA in, these dips are an opportunity if you're not sure whether it's going to do that. But the case he made, pretty compelling, especially as it relates to that 200 WMA. I don't, I'm not a chart guy, right? I don't have the technical analysis chops that somebody like he does, but excuse me, but it's hard to argue. Right. It's hard to argue with that moving average when you look at it on the chart like this. So,
but it is, I get there's always that kind of like there's nagging trepidation back there that on the math, it's like the more time goes by, the more that 200-day moving average is going to start dropping.
True.
So, you know,
true.
Is it's a tricky thing, but you know, in 2 months, will that still be there on that arc, or will that 200-day moving average be down at the bottom of the drop there?
Right.
You know, if it stays in that 20 weeks, I mean, I said crabbing, which is not the right word, but in the range it's at now, going up and down for 20 weeks, if it stays there, it is in that 200 moving average, because it's an average.
Yeah, yeah.
It should drop down below at that point.
Yeah, it probably could. It probably could. You're right.
So when I look back at all the old stuff, and it's like, oh, look, it hit the buy line on the 200-day moving average back, you know, whenever that is. But did it on that day? Was that 200-day moving average right there on that day when did it touch it, or was it somewhere else and the moving average line has been moving?
That's possible. I don't know how much it moves in the past off of it. So I'm not sure how it functions, but
yeah, probably outside the 200-day range. You're probably right. There's not going to be much, if any. But yeah, you get what I'm getting at. These tools are all a blend of future and past. So
and what I think happens here is I've always kind of considered technical analysis kind of this, well, okay, you know, a little bit of black magic, right? But at the same time, once enough people believe it, right? The narrative is, 200 weekly moving average is critical. Then that causes the actions that actually cause it to become true. You know what I mean? So it's the whole psychology of the markets.
It stimulates the behavior.
Exactly. Shizzy said, I recently stopped my DCA. I've been buying nonstop since Luna crash. Sean scared me, laughing out loud. I plan on starting again after the election. Yeah,
look, this is, you know, also if you came in 3 weeks ago and just got the benefit of that 80% rise in ETH, you know, I mean, again, not financial advice, but I say this all the time. I trim the position at that point. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with locking in a 50% gain right now. I mean, think about the last 8 months.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, you know, on the other hand, you know, Shizzy, that might be something to consider too.
Niblet says, I'm highly suspect of technical analysis. Chaotic systems, by definition, cannot be reliably predicted from past behavior. And then he says, but yeah, it can be self-fulfilling. And I think that's what happens. There are so many people that are ardent believers in technical analysis that once enough people say this is an important guide, that it becomes self-fulfilling. So anyway, it's interesting. And what I liked most about what Sean had to say was giving perspective, right? Like giving these time frames of 20 weeks, giving the fact that, you know, historically, this is what Bitcoin has done repeatedly. Those kinds of things are really important things to be thinking about strategically. And the perspective that these moves daily are irrelevant once you look at this chart way out, and understanding that chopping around in this area, you don't have to gain on the exact bottom, right? You can certainly have a strategy that's like DCAing in this range, or you can have a strategy that says, I'm going to wait till it breaks this. And once it breaks this, and I feel confident that we're on our way back, I'll buy then and sit on it, right? And see where I end up on the profit side. So,
yeah. And you know, if you were somebody who came in the last maybe 10 months, you know, you're probably feeling pretty shell-shocked right now.
Yeah.
At this point. And,
absolutely.
You know, and so you're like going, is this where I come back in? Or should I wait? I mean, I think you have to take the same discipline and sort of regard whatever you did in the past as sunk cost and start fresh, but not dumping that, still holding it, obviously, and then bringing new money in. I mean, I think it's the only way you can, you know, claw your way back at this stage. But again, you know, the move we're talking about next, I mean, what did Sean say? 225K to $500,000 a BTC. I mean, so look, if you buy at 23 or you buy at 22 or you buy at 18, is it, to Brad's point, is there really a difference there? You know, in the 225 to $500,000.
When you're hitting $2.5 million. Yeah, no, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of pressure here either.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So, again, patience. I was watching something. What was it? Oh, it was on that Zawahiri strike. And I mean, it's like they were watching that guy for months, waiting for and they were patient. I mean, this is the same thing here. There's no rush.
Yeah.
So think about what you got and think about where you are and think about where you want to get. Trim the sails if it makes sense to get some dry powder, bring some new powder to the table. But, this is kind of like where you can do some opportunistic stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Niblet says downside of a couple of hundred is irrelevant when upside is orders of magnitude greater. And Shizzy says everything I buy, I'm holding till 2025. I don't want to give the IRS any right now. Yeah, smart move, man. So interesting thing, you talked about the assassination of him, Al-Qaeda leader Shakar. What is it, Shakari?
No, Zawahiri, I think.
Zakar. Well, we should really
whatever.
This is pretty pitiful. Anyway, and then I'm having a lot of difficulty with Nancy Pelosi today. On one hand, I see this idea of kind of being hawkish on China and saying F you to the Chinese. On the other hand, I read a really good analysis in the New York Times about how stupid what she's doing is. Number one, it takes out of the news cycle Biden's good news, right? And that's been going on. He's had a run of good news here for the last few weeks, including killing the leader of Al-Qaeda. And number two, there's a really strategic consideration here, and that's that Biden doesn't want her there. None of his advisors want her there. They asked her not to go, and she did it anyway. So it looks like he's weak. And number two, Biden made a deal with China to stay out of fucking Ukraine and not supply Russia with the drones they need. And now basically Pelosi's saying F you to the Chinese. So I don't have enough expertise in the diplomatic relations around this thing, but I just think it's an unnecessary move on her part. I think it's stupid.
I think, it was an announcement that was sort of made by her. Well, first of all, she already landed. So anything we say,
she's already there. Yeah. It's already done.
It's sort of like, more hindsight or more 2020 analysis. But I think she said something about it. And then, of course, then the Chinese said their shit. And then, and then Biden and the White House are like, what the fuck? And I think that everybody just got backed into these corners. So what I would just, because she doesn't want to back down. And then once they threaten, some nut job on their official Communist Party newspaper says that they're going to shoot down the plane. I mean, this is like, how do you then go, oh, fuck, we're backing down? You can't
that's true. That makes sense.
So it kind of but it all started off, it seemed like everybody got kind of forced into doing things. And this is what I always talk about escalation in any situation is that, you want to have off ramps. You don't want to telegraph what you're going to do because then it turns into a big, giant political mess. And so I agree with you that, look, the Chinese, as far as Ukraine, Russia, have been somewhat restrained. I mean, they have been buying the oil, but at a big discount. And I think that we understand that, who really cares if just as long as the revenue is going down into Russia, I guess. And they haven't really armed with the drones, like you said. But I don't think they really want to go to the mat over this. I think this is more of a just get this shit over with and move on.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because there's nothing that they gain by it at this point.
No.
So to me, I think it's very, I haven't really seen the press in the last hour, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of hullabaloo now that it's already happened. The U.S. got carriers and an F-35 flat top thing there, that can basically hit anything in sight. So, nobody's going to make a move because the Chinese lose that fight if they make a move here. So it's just rhetoric. But I do agree with you. I think Nancy, I don't think Pelosi intended it to be this way, but then once it got going, she boxed herself in, and you don't ever want to do that diplomatically.
No.
So I agree. It's kind of a mistake.
She just should have never even announced it. She should have stayed in her lane. She should have consulted with the White House. And to me, it's just irresponsible. But
yeah,
whatever.
but it's the checks and balances thing. You can't.
Yeah, I get it.
But there's a tremendous gray areas, of course, in all of this too. So
sure, especially foreign policy.
Kind of an incendiary move, but not a death knell.
Shizzy asked, have you guys looked into Aptos and the new coding language called Move? Yes, we have. We've actually discussed it on the show a couple of times. Looks like it has promising components to it, especially the capability to separate the security out from it. And definitely think it has some potential. From my perspective right now, I think, every new L1 that launches right now is going to have difficulty that if it's not EVM compatible. Because you have this core group of developers that invested energy and time into being Solidity devs, and now have to learn something. Now, if Move is simpler and easier and more secure, that may be an incentive. The other incentive will be how much of the hundreds of millions of dollars they've raised they're going to be given up to developers to come on board. But I can see new developers coming into this, but I have a feeling the folks who are, pretty embedded in EVM compatible chains and can just flip a switch and move over to and have their protocol on other chains are probably going to focus more there than they are on those on a new chain. But there's a ton of money behind this project, so it has potential, and you never know. So that's the Facebook thing, Joe. That's that team came out of the Facebook blockchain team. And the language came out of it. I think Aptos there's two that came out of it. I think it's Sui and Aptos that came out of the Facebook teams that were building the blockchain, the Libra stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, it's Aptos that didn't fork that chain or take the source code. They built their own. One of those two did, but I'm not sure. I got to look it up again. So, but yeah, I think there's potential there. I just think from a developer recruitment perspective, they've got a long road wrong hill to climb, and they'll probably have to hire developers to build some protocols first. So.
Well, I think, I think that's the key point, Brad, now we're looking at, there's so many layer ones out there now, and they're all trying to attract, a lot of different languages, trying to build communities of developers and all varying speeds. I think I was looking at something about, maybe it was Polygon transaction processing speeds on Ethereum or whatever. And it was only they got up to 60 transactions a second. They were comparing it to Visa. And, Visa is actually less than that. And I'm thinking about Phantom, and I'm thinking, are we talking about 35,000 transactions per second over there? So the differentiator to me is not just going to be transaction speed. It's got to be your point that you just made. It's community, it's developers. And I just wonder how any of these can keep attracting them all.
It's hard, man.
Through community. It seems like to be a development standard across everybody.
Well, and look, if you're already developing for Ethereum virtual machine, you're much more likely to take the cash from Phantom or Avalanche or Polygon or the ZK EVM stuff that's coming up or whatever. You're much more likely to take or somebody that has an EVM engine. Stellar announced theirs is in pre-alpha or whatever. You're much more likely to take the funds from the place that'll let you just deploy your protocol as is than you are to start from scratch. Right now, you may be a developer that says, "Oh, holy shit, Move is absolutely the most powerful, coolest, most secure language I've ever seen. I want to play with this tech." And that there's a segment of the audience that'll say, "God, I'm tired of developing in Solidity. It's a piece of shit. I want to try and move out." Right. So and I'll take the cash, right? I'll take the $500,000 they'll give me to build over here. But when it comes down to kind of immediate revenue, user base, etc., Aptos has a shit ton of distance to go to attract users and to attract developers. So we'll see what happens.
Well, one final point on that. And plus with all these no code, low code variants coming up all over the place too. It's kind of how does that fit into it too? It seems to me that, some low code, no code solution that could pull the modules of the best from all of these language and somehow integrate them together in one unifying language or one common denominator language would be really interesting, or structure or architecture.
Yes.
It's not got to language at that point, but that would be pretty cool.
That'd be very cool, Joe. Very cool. Very
cool.
I
wonder who would do that.
I don't know who would do that. You're such a douche. All right. So we had a nice big hack last night.
Yeah.
190 million, another bridge. But once again, you know what I tell my kids all the time when they're doing math or any schoolwork?
What?
Check your fucking work. Check your work. Check your fucking work. Like, go back, check your work. Let me check your work. Have somebody else check your work. Check your work. I don't understand the technical details of it, but evidently these supposedly very skilled developers at Nomad inserted when they were doing some operation, I don't know, as an upgrade or whatever, inserted the code necessary to automatically approve messages coming into the system, and either didn't turn it off or didn't do it properly when they set it up. So that resulted in a draining of their $190 million in TVL. The hackers left about $650 in the protocol. But what's really interesting is it was so easy. It was so easy. The hacker, the exploiters, somehow or another, somebody figured out what they were doing and put it in a chat room. Everybody's like, what? All I have to do is copy and paste this transaction and put my own wallet address in. So it was like 100 other people dove in and did the same fucking thing the exploiter did and started draining with them. So somebody posted explaining the Nomad bridge hack.
I love it. The kind of decentralized hack, it's like smash the window.
The first decentralized looting.
Exactly. I don't want to say I love it, but I love the analogy,
Well, here's the funny thing. All these people did it. And then they started sending messages to Nomad saying, because they figured out that they did their linked wallet that's linked to their ENS or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, I have 1 million, but it was a white hack. I just wanted to get it out before the hackers did. So I got it. I got you guys. And there was like, I don't know, I saw like 10 messages like that last night. I'm like, yeah, bullshit. You just realized you could fucking get caught. That's
you will get caught.
Exactly.
That's like, yeah, that's funny. I mean, how do you, well, I guess, I'm not moving huge quantities around in bridges, first of all. I mean, sometimes you do, but I break it up, I'm not like, I just don't trust them.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, I don't run into stuff like this, it's nothing like that. It's just more of it seems like the new ones are always getting ripped, just like smart contracts are always getting ripped, the new ones,
I read a piece that said that the devs at Nomad are top notch, but we need checks and balances, right? We need systems that say, oh shit, either automated or human review that say, oh crap, we need to turn that off, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, I get it. The pressure's on. Everybody wants to deliver as fast as possible. Everyone wants to suck up as much TVL as they can because the world is, crazy competitive. But you got to put in checks and balances on this shit. You got to have people review what you're doing and say, oh yeah, I mean, this is just kind of developer 101, right? Like,
yeah,
review my code for me, dude. Like, so
it's kind of like the Blizzard finance thing, with down was just forgetting to monitor the price oracle.
Yep.
And, getting gashed. And so, it just shows kind of like a sleep at the switch.
Yeah,
as I'd call it, or sleeping at the wheel, setting that Tesla autopilot and taking a nap.
Yeah.
And then hoping nothing goes wrong.
I don't know the details of this one yet, but my buddies over at Reaper got exploited as well this morning at about 7 a.m. for, at the time, it was 1.6 million in DAI and 62 ETH. And it all went into Tornado Cash. Don't know what the details are on this one yet, but I hate to see it because love those guys and their ethics and philosophy about development. But shit happens, and I think, and they've had a previous exploit as well. So it is what it is. So
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like it's exploit. Like every day there's something.
Well, and that's the frustrating thing. Like these aren't even like real hacks. These are like the stupid mistake. I don't know that Reapers is. I'm not reflecting on Reaper. Like, how many times are we going to have? How many times are we going to have these exploits that are just stupid human errors? Like, can we at least cover for those? Can we at least put in the systems that make sure we don't do that stupid shit? You know, I reached out when I was watching this happening. I reached out to Paul Brody at Ernst & Young, EY, who's head of their blockchain partnership.
Yeah.
And they have a smart contract screener that actually goes in and finds the common exploits, common problems, common mistakes, etc. So I sent him a message that's like, I'm like, dude, are you guys still working on that thing? Because that's a powerful tool, right? And I know other people are developing similar tools. It's like, let's get this to market as a public good and get developers making it mandatory to use it, or let's put a seal of approval that says at the very least we have audits, and by the way, we've also run these AI based systems against our contracts to make sure we're not missing anything, and they're running against it all the time, right? As we make changes, checking it, etc. This is the kind of shit we got to fix, because 190 million because you didn't turn off the fucking spigot when you did the upgrade is just ridiculous.
Well, it seems to me like anybody doing a project that there should be the ability to pull down like modules that cover key functionality. So whatever your innovative core tech is, it's one piece of the puzzle, and everything else around it has been completely stress tested and validated and audited and everything. And so you're just contained to one thing, which is your little innovation piece. Yeah. And everything else is solid. I don't see why that isn't there already. Yeah, I just don't get this.
Well, and there are in fairness, there are projects that have put out code like that to be reused. And a lot of times, I mean, you know, we have so many copy pastas out there, you know, people copying Compound, Aave, whatever, that exists in the world, but it needs to be common practice. Like you said, it needs to be, okay, I don't have to reinvent the fucking wheel. This code works great. It's tested, it's audited, it's been hacked on, and it works, right? That, I agree with you 100%.
Well, and also backed by, like, look, if it was an E&Y backed product, you know, if that was as solid as modules as I think we'd like to see, that's insurable.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
that makes sense.
You know, then all of a sudden you got like, you know, maybe Lloyd's of London backs it too or something, but then you got something where everybody goes, huh, you know, this would be an interesting layer one differentiator, something like that, where you have that platform.
Well, Phantom, I need to climb deeper into what the tool does, but Phantom did announce that they're integrating into the chain and making available to developers. Last week, they announced it, a security system that does some kind of scanning of contracts. So they're making the right move for that. So Niblett says the move fast and break stuff mentality works when making social media apps, doesn't apply to fintech, healthcare, defense, and DeFi.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Doesn't work on mission critical stuff.
Yeah, my money.
Yeah, or our prosperity or our health.
Exactly. Exactly. So we talked about this briefly yesterday. This whole ETH proof of work versus ETH2. I'm going with that nomenclature because it seems to be getting adopted. So ETH proof of work is going to be the fork of ETH version 2. ETH proof of work being the one where the miners still want to keep their money, making their money on their platform, and hopefully want to try to recreate all of the existing Ethereum network on a proof of work chain that they keep going, right? And BitMEX did this cool piece, and I'll have the link in the show notes, but they kind of did this analysis of what the opportunities are, what the risks are for investors, et cetera. And they do a really great job of explaining what the issues are at stake, and how much work the miners would have to do to make this really work. Like, it's pretty astronomical level of work. But then they got into the coins and tokens and what's available, and what things are going to be locked up and what things wouldn't be honored, et cetera, et cetera. Like, for example, all the staked coins, I think we talked about this yesterday, you know, they're irrelevant because if you're locked in and staked in Ethereum proof of stake. That's totally irrelevant to a proof of work chain. But they had this idea, which is actually kind of interesting to me. And at first I misread it. And I was like, well, that's a stupid fucking idea, because it sounded like they were saying, when the fork happens, you should buy up a bunch of this ETH and then sell it. And I'm like, well, that's stupid, because everybody else is going to be selling the free tokens they got. So price is going to go way down, right? But their idea was this: have, in the advance of the merge, have USDC ready in your account, like that, you want to invest. So let's say it's $20,000, whatever, right? When the fork happens, you're going to have USDC in your account in the fork, and the same amount in the fork and the same amount in ETH version 2. Take the fork money in that and go ahead and do swaps for tokens that you want on the chain, and or sell back or buy the ETH in advance and sell the ETH in, all of these dexes that are still going to be functioning on the proof of work chain, right? So Uniswap, et cetera, they're still going to be there on the proof of work chain. So if in advance of the merge, you buy a bunch of ETH, you have it in your hands, in your wallet, and then you can immediately dump it whenever you want on the new chain. The only risk to that is that the people who are actually supplying the liquidity on Uniswap or whatever DEX you're on may try to pull their liquidity immediately when the fork happens, because they'll have free money too. But there may be a chunk of people that don't think of it, don't do it, aren't aware that there's even a fork happening, right? There's probably going to be a ton of people that don't even know a fork's happening, and there's going to be liquidity all over the place on DEXs, et cetera. So I think that's a really interesting opportunity, right?
So can I summarize it? He's saying basically that if you put USDC, he's talking about Circle, right? I mean, he's talking about regular USDC. USDC means something else. Okay. All right. So you put 20,000 USDC into your wallet, and then when it forks, you're actually getting a double spend type situation where you got 20,000 on both chains. Okay. Yeah. And so then as long as the liquidity from the proof of work chain doesn't get pulled instantly, you will have the opportunity to sell, to buy ETH or do whatever at that point that you could then sell.
Right. So the idea is that he's saying, and I missed out a crucial point. So have USDC in your wallet, immediately go onto the new chain, utilizing the liquidity that's still there, and buy ETH POW, right? Okay. Hold it and wait for the centralized exchanges to enable trading for ETH proof of work. And somebody will, is their thesis, and then sell it immediately on the centralized exchange. Take your money and go. Now, you could do the other thing that I said, which is buy Ethereum beforehand on ETH v2 or ETH as it is today, have it in your wallet, and then you'll have that ETH on the new chain and just dump it for USDC and then exit with the USDC. But their point is that most likely the first thing that centralized exchanges will support is ETH on the proof of work chain. So you would have a much better chance of liquidating that than you would USDC, because USDC can block.
Yeah, I was thinking of that.
Yeah. So anyway, interesting idea. I'm sure, look, I think there's opportunities, but my point in the discussions I was having this morning is, Cawley was coming out and talking about how the miners, they don't have anywhere to go, and everybody's mean to the miners because, they've been securing the network all this time, yada, 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 right? Here's my point. If you were any kind of a business person, or you didn't have this fantasy as an Ethereum miner that somehow this was going to go on forever and Ethereum was never going to do this fucking merge, never do the upgrade, so I'm just going to hope and keep going that Ethereum is going to, why wouldn't you have started putting your money into Ethereum Classic and getting apps to deploy on Ethereum Classic so that you have a purpose in life as a miner after this thing happens? They've had years to deal with this, and now they're going to do this, cockeyed, stupid ass attempt at trying to save Ethereum as a proof of work chain. And now we'll have 3 Ethereum chains, right? To me, it's just so short-sighted not to say, okay, we can actually, there's a chain that's mining based that we could actually go make money on if we can boost the overall value of that chain. So 2 years ago, or when DeFi starts taking off, they say, oh shit, why don't we start investing in protocols to get deployed on Ethereum Classic? Now on Ethereum Classic, we've built up value and mining is worth it. But instead, they're putting up $10 million to help dApps deploy to the new ETH proof of work. They're going to have this giant mess on their hands. So to me, I'm sympathetic to their position, but at the same time, you knew this business was going to end, right? I mean, you knew eventually Ethereum was going to go to proof of stake. They've made it very clear. So if you were worried about that, maybe, preparing in advance would have been a great idea. I don't know.
Well, remember we were talking to ETC, to those guys, like, was it 4 years ago?
Yeah.
And, they were working on all those cool concepts about, like, I mean, it sounds passe now, but, piping the different blockchains together, with one thing being discussed. And so nothing's moved there since we were having those discussions that long ago. Nothing's over there.
They got nothing going on, dude.
Yeah, but the token's been going up in price. That's why I was kind of curious.
The token went up in price because people are anticipating the fact that the miners have nowhere to go, right? And so they're figuring that the miners would try to do something on Ethereum Classic, not another fork. But now the miners are saying we're going to fork. So
yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Shizzy said, so it's basically what Richard Hart is doing. Yeah. Richard Hart's doing it. Although I probably have a lot more faith in the prowess of the miners than I do in Richard Hart.
Oh, come on. Big PP? That guy rocks.
Yeah, but staying proof of work, whereas Richard Hart's going proof of stake. Yeah.
Okay. Exactly. Oh, that. Got it.
And Shizzy said the tax implications will be rough, though, for the proof of work, potentially airdropped a crap load of money. Yeah, I mean, you're going to have essentially anything you have on the Ethereum main chain, when the fork happens, you will have it on the proof of work chain. So whether or not those tokens will have any use because protocols are shut down and can't function without being on mainnet, Ethereum version 2, who knows? But anything you own on mainnet on Ethereum today, when the merge happens and they fork, you'll have on the fork. So
I wonder if they might, like, say Uniswap or something, the big ones, if they might, like, dump all the liquidity pools, like, a day before the merge happens.
Well, that's possible. I don't know that they would actually manually do it themselves, but I'm sure there'll be some protocols that don't want the potential harm to their brand,
Yeah, because you could cut the rewards off.
Yeah.
And then negative incentivize, like, if you don't withdraw by this amount this day, then there's a penalty tax, basically.
Right. Yeah, it's a juggling act because on one hand, you don't want the total mess, but on the other hand, there are going to be people that are really pissed off that can't get to their free money. So,
Yeah. I wonder if also, will they handle it? Like when I've been involved in a couple of migrations in the past, and what happens is, in my situation, the replacement tokens just show up in the wallet.
Yeah.
And the other ones don't work anymore to do anything with, but then you have them right there, if you had 500,000, you get 500,000 in the new ones, or usually it's 1-to-1. Is that the way they're doing this ETH merge? When that happens, are they going to? No.
Yeah, I mean, so with the merge, you just have what you have already. I mean, nothing changes, right? And that's the same with the proof of work with a fork, because they're not starting a new chain. They're just continuing where the merge happened, right?
Got it.
So everything you had, you have duplicated on the new chain.
Yeah, whereas if you were running on the same chain, then you would swap tokens out. Okay.
Yeah, and on proof of stake, you don't have to do anything for ETH version 2. You won't have to change anything about your tokens. The tokens don't change. They function the same way. It's just controlled and secured by proof of stake on ETH version 2. So, yeah, nothing. It's not a fork. The merge isn't a fork. I mean, hard.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I get it. No, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Let's see what else. We're getting close out of time.
Good point. We're thinking about the ETFs.
Yeah. The ETFs. I have no idea what the impact is.
But I guess if nothing changes, then they're sitting in a wallet in that ETF, in some type of wallet. So, that would get the same treatment, I presume. Well, we'll see how it comes down.
Craig Wright won his lawsuit.
Craig, which one's this?
Craig Wright, the fake Satoshi.
Oh, he's
against Peter McCormick for slander. And you know what he was awarded?
It looks like €1.
£1 pound.
Yeah, that's like the just take this shit down the road, judgment, and here's your 1.7 million in court cost bill.
Yeah. Yeah. And the judge basically said in multiple places, you're a lying piece of shit, Craig Wright, like over and over again.
But McCormick wasn't sued for,
for calling him fake. For
calling him fake. Got it.
Yeah.
So it was the libel thing. Yeah. All right. But the judge is like, yeah, whatever. I can't prove it either way. You're a douchebag. Pay him $1. Or
exactly.
Yeah, it is $1 now. That's right.
Yeah.
Parity.
Yeah. So $1. So I love
Anyone
it. I actually love that it was $1. And so then people are making a joke that we're starting a GoFundMe for Peter to pay his judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny.
That's funny, man. I mean, that just sums up all the bullshit, right there. That sums up all the bullshit. Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, the judge was like, look, you're a lying piece of shit. You should have seen it. It's like 4 different statements of how much of a liar he was, like over in the judgment. Sean says, anyone pricing in the risk of failure on the merger? I would assume people are thinking about that. But I mean, this thing's been tested so many friggin' times. I think the risk is low, but hopefully somebody's thinking about that. I mean, you could play the short game on that, I guess, and just say, hey, if it fails, I become, generationally wealthy because I bet against it. Certainly a possibility.
It definitely is. I mean, how big of a possibility though? I don't know. I think it's more likely to happen successfully than not. But is that 80%, 70, 95? What is that?
I mean, based on what I have learned without being an expert in any way, shape, or form, I feel really confident about the level of testing they've done here. Like this will have been through multiple duplications of the same thing that's going to happen on main chain. So I feel pretty good about it. That said, I've also managed a lot of software development projects, and no matter how sure I've been, I have been painfully embarrassed in the past. So, shit happens.
Yeah. You got to think that, most people in the vast preponderance of anybody with a big stake in this, the vast preponderance of their wealth is in ETH. And so this is an existential moment for them. I mean, I would think if you fuck this up, the problem will be no way to roll back. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so if you stumble, you're just stuck in no man's land, screwed.
Yeah.
So I think, Brad, I think you're right, man. I think if anybody's paid more attention to this, it's going to be I think the ETH team is like stress tested this and put so much on it because they know it's make or break.
But that'd be one hell of a bet, Sean. You doing that?
That's like a Soros British pound bet, man.
Exactly. That's like a ballsy bet.
Then the next time you're on, it'll be the $18 billion activist investor, Sean, from the pub in Dublin.
Sean buys every Chinese miner.
Yeah, it's like, what's the strategy? Buy more Bitcoin.
Moves them to his property.
Yeah.
Sean said, I'm all over it.
It's like, fuck the Americans. Bring all the BTC here to Ireland, damn it.
Sean will own ETH proof of work.
Oh, man.
So it begins, Joe. Binance US delisting tokens that the SEC labeled as a security in that charges against the insider trading case. So you and I talked about this. This was going to start happening.
Well, the interesting thing in that article that I read, or one similar, is that, it's like the SEC is now saying that those are the only securities on that list. So before it was a little vagary there, but now I'm like, okay, now we're starting to say what is and what isn't. And now we got to have some clear-cut rules and, some that people can follow, guidelines. So,
but it's not in their best interest to give us the rules. It's never going to be in their best interest. It's
not
in their incentives.
Well, it depends on what they want to do. I mean,
Congress has to force this. That's, to me, Congress is going to have to force this issue. Because it's not in Gensler's best interest to make it clear. The honeypot works, man. They're racking up the,
Yeah, but aside from that big haul, these guys don't really want to do anything. That's probably impolite to say it that way, but remember, bureaucratic people versus profit-driven people. The incentive is to do nothing and sit at your desk. And I mean, these guys.
Well,
are
look, it took them five years. This new prosecution that just came out. 5 fucking years.
Because they're out like uncharted territory. Nobody knows what to do, and they're all trying to survive.
They don't have the resources. I mean, how long must the list from 2017 be?
But you know, and then again, so what happens when those go out of business?
I'm going to be dead by this time they start prosecuting people in DeFi.
Well, what's the statute of limitations on it?
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
I mean,
it's probably 5 years. They're
I'm
probably
going to suggest
the fucking edge.
Probably less than murder is my guess.
You know, I keep going back to. I still don't understand why this isn't being talked about. Right? The Supreme Court has ruled that the SEC cannot enforce these actions anymore. Like they don't have the right to do it. Not the Supreme Court. Federal judge ruled. So I'm assuming they're just going to keep doing what they do until it gets to the Supreme Court, and it will, because this is a major issue. And this conservative court is probably going to back it, especially the constitutionalists on the court. But a federal judge ruled that it is outside of the authority of the SEC, of a regulator, to enforce, to create what the enforcement parameters are for the laws made by Congress, and that only Congress can dictate those things. So from my perspective, all of this could end up getting thrown out the window next year if the Supreme Court rules on this. So it's going to get really interesting. And if they do, then that's going to call into question every enforcement action by the SEC that required any interpretation of them, of the parameters of the laws being broken.
Yeah, I don't see that. With all due respect, I just don't see that happening in the sense of just creating this. I mean, I remember going through like the Great Recession and all the mortgage-backed security stuff, and it was like, you know, you would talk to the banks that were writing down like $100 billion or something, whatever, and it's like, did you ever find the mortgage paperwork? Oh no, we don't even want to deal with this shit. It's like it's in the rear view mirror. We got the bailout money. Nobody wants to look at this. So to me, I think the whole 2017 ICO mess or 2018 ICO mess is that, you know, they're going to selectively go after, if they haven't already, the real fraudsters. But I don't see them doing technical enforcement on that, just because I see it being just like focusing on the past.
Well, you know what? That's a really good point.
Yeah.
The point you're making is really valid, because as soon as they go after the technical enforcements, now they risk losing in court.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's actually a really, really good point. That's actually really valid.
I think everybody just wants to shut the door on that and have a few poster boys. And I think they already have some of those.
Yeah. They got the guys yesterday for, I think it was 11 people, $300 million Ponzi.
But those are pure scams. See, that's what I hate about those. Everybody goes to crypto scam. It's not a crypto scam. It's like they're calling people, cold calling people on the phone to like,
it's a boiler room.
Put money into it. It's just like the old Florida real estate deals and shit like that. You know, it's like they're selling something they don't have, and they're enticing them with, you'll make a shitload of money. Yeah. I mean, that's as old as time, that pitch. Yeah. Oh, it's just they're using it with crypto.
It's just another vehicle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So those people, I am like, lock those people up constantly. I have no sympathy for that. But people that are actually trying to do stuff and raise capital, kind of, you know, what, again, back to the original thing of Jobs Act and crowdfunding, which created all of this, the ICO pieces, because of the exceptions in there, the way it was written, you know, it created a lot of innovation. Yeah. And a lot of failures.
Yep.
That's just what happens. So I don't really want to go back and penalize people for raising 50 grand in an ICO to do something on, you know, aggregating plumbers in some city or whatever that didn't pull it off. Yeah. Because they didn't get super rich either. I guarantee they lost money on that deal. So why go back and do it? Go after the bad guys.
Yeah. You know what? I was thinking about Sean again, and I bet he's going to start a short the merge DeFi protocol with its own vault. What do you think?
I like it. I mean, again, back to one of these, if we could spin up shit like that was purely anonymous DAO type thing that would just, you know, everybody could just throw in, you know, nothing, you know, KYC, nothing, just pure anonymous like we like. And then it's a cause-based thing. And then if it fucks up, then you get the big payout.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, it just does a self-destruct or something like that. I don't know. You know, things like that around activism, I think could be, if people could launch those AIs pretty much on causes with a money element, that's going to be pretty interesting.
Speaking of which, I sent you a link in our private messages today.
Okay, sorry.
I don't want to bring it up yet in the show, but we've talked about this a number of times, and somebody's actually doing something that we talked about that could be interesting for the We're Forked folks to participate in. So we'll take a look at that and make an assessment.
Yeah. Excellent.
So I just stumbled on this DebtDAO. This is really interesting to me, having worked for a short time in the business lending market, based on cash advance market for businesses. So in other words, I worked in the arena where businesses would get loans, but they weren't technically loans, for future revenues, right? And so they would shift their credit card processing over to this company. The company would lend them money, and then every month they'd take some percentage of their revenue to pay back the debt at some stupid rate. Once I understood that it was actually a harmful thing instead of a positive thing for most of these businesses, I got out of there. But I've always said there was an opportunity in a combination of crowdfunded and crypto in that marketplace. A little more difficult now because credit card processing is all moving to Stripe and Square and all of those. But there's an opportunity there for somebody to do this right for businesses and provide them funding that actually helps them grow, right? Because it didn't matter your credit there. It was based on future revenues. So interestingly enough, this DeFi DebtDAO is doing this for treasuries. So they are providing under collateralized lending for treasuries based on the kind of the assets in the treasury, et cetera. So didn't dive deep into this. It looks like it's a very manual process right now, but an interesting solution into the marketplace that could lead to kind of what I was just talking about is potentially some kind of crowd-funded future revenue lock in on their bank account or credit card transactions, but making it fair, making it at good rates, helping them grow, et cetera. So just interesting thing for folks to take a look at. It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, I like that because, look, again, what I think listeners get from us is a lot of years of experience. And anybody that's lending money, the real business is loan to own, or the real business is loan to own you. All right. So be very, no matter how nice they are or whatever, always be super cautious on that. And, because I was involved in some factoring type, trying to get clients factoring at banks.
Yep.
There was a bit of you could get it done, but it was off of say government contractors. So they were government invoices. So you knew you're going to get paid, but they would take I think it was the first one, I think it was 8% of the invoice. And then it goes scaling down the more money you're rolling through. But that's 8% of your revenue. Off the top when you factor an invoice. So anything like this that comes in and does what I want to see in this whole friggin' space is accelerating the velocity of capital so quality projects can get expansion capital at the lowest possible cost and in the most efficient manner.
Yep.
To me, that's what we're doing here.
Well, I think there's a huge opportunity in DeFi to fund an operation like that. And look, these guys were all predatory. They were all going after the businesses in the worst condition. And look, they would more than make their money back because they could count on getting at least a 6 to 9 month runway out of them, right? So they would get their money back, they'd make a chunk of cash, and then the business would go out of business and they didn't give a fuck. They were this just predatory, stupid shit. And there's an opportunity here to actually help companies grow, expand the economic footprint and make money from it, but be fair about it. So anyway, found that interesting when I stumbled on that today. You know what? I think that's it for the day, Joe. I'm good.
Yeah, no, I think it was a good, I got a bunch of articles teed up for tomorrow too, but I think it was a good follow-up on, Sean yesterday. I think
Sean just said the merge is changing the engine on your car at 120 on the freeway. There's a lot of risk.
Yeah. This started wasn't this going on in 2018? And I think the analogy then was swapping out the engines on a 747 or whatever.
Yeah. While it's
30,000 feet. Yeah. It's And so I don't remember the original release dates for this merge were, but I suspect they were several years ago.
Yeah, they were. There was a
Yeah.
year or two after he announced it. Yeah.
Okay. So they, delays mean complexity. And hopefully it also means thinking through every freaking possible outcome, because this is a friggin' mess, as Sean, as you say.
I don't even want to think about what happens if this goes wrong. I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. You know who will be the saviors if it goes wrong?
BTC?
No, the ETH proof of work fork.
Oh, the ETC. Oh, the original, the second fork. Yeah, got it. Sorry.
Yeah, because they'll be up and running. Everyone will have their tokens. All the protocols can move over and manage that instead of managing ETH proof of stake 2.0, whatever. So in actuality, that's almost a safety valve.
Yeah.
It's almost a safety valve for the merge going wrong.
Yeah, it's some heavy things to think about here.
Yeah.
So what do you think the odds are of them hitting? What is it? Is it still September 19, or I'd hear somebody say September 30?
I haven't heard any new updates on the date, so you know more than I do. I haven't heard anything change, but it could have. Yeah,
I just think I caught it anecdotally somewhere, but I might have been, I don't remember who said it or what, but let's just stick with 19 as the date right now. But other than that, I think, look, we're in good spots. It's summer, man. It's August. These are the doldrums. And
heads up, everybody, Joe, and you too.
Yeah.
I completely forgot, but Monday through Thursday next week, I will be out because our pre-COVID cruise that we paid for, we are finally being allowed to use, and so we're using it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Where are you guys going?
Nothing's Caribbean cheesy shit. Just
Bimini. And
you know what it is? It's the food and the shit you can do on board, because I don't give a shit about where we're going. It's just picking whatever you want to eat and gaining back all the 10 pounds I just lost. So
yeah, well, that's cool. So that's next week.
Next week, so Niblets like another vacation.
See what I'm dealing with, Niblets, man?
Joe's gonna do the show without me.
I just can't. I can't do it for an hour, man. I need a wingman to do it properly, Don't
worry, Joe. I'll come back and hold your hand. We'll be back next Friday. But yeah, Niblets, another vacation. This one was booked 3 years ago, so and we couldn't take it during COVID. So
slacker.
You take it when you can get it.
You should auction that off and donate it to charity, man.
I donate plenty to
your wife's gonna love me for that one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the cool thing is, based on the prices, what we paid for the one cruise for our family, we're getting the cruise for the family next week, and then my wife and I are getting one in December for a couple of days. So,
nice.
Worked out nicely.
Yeah, ever the negotiator.
Yeah. Well, it didn't have to. I mean, just the pricing.
They're just the pricing did it. Oh yeah.
Cool. Yeah. It worked out. So.
Anyway. Well, that'll be fun, man. Get a little. Boy, you are just living the lifestyle of the rich and famous these days.
Hey, I'm already out the cash. I might as well fucking use it.
Vacationing everywhere, man.
Yeah, I did sign up for the Wi-Fi though. Maybe I'll do a show from the cruise. That'd be interesting. Satellite Wi-Fi sucks, but Well, everybody's pissed off that I'm getting another vacation.
Yeah, everybody's like slacker. Well, see, this is why everybody comes to America. It's perpetual vacation here.
Dude, that's experiences are all what we care about in my family. That's why
that's the only way you learn anything. So look, again, I remember doing ed tech before we go, and it was, breaking out like 10% of your learning is actually book learning or class learning and things like that. 90% of human learning is experiential. So, if you don't do it, you don't learn it.
That's right.
And so to me, it's like all the experiences you want in the world, including getting your ass kicked on stuff. I mean, that's where you learn the most. So, God, everybody's giving you a big sign off here. I'm like,
yeah, man.
All right,
I'll be here till Monday. Monday through Thursday next week. We'll be out back on Friday. So,
well, you could also maybe try it. Maybe do a 30-minute or something like that if you want.
And listen, your minds are going to be blown. Go listen to that dyad episode. I'm telling you, people, this is the shit. Joe, if you haven't listened yet, you should, because
so what was the play on that? How did we make money on it?
we get an NFT. And actually, Zero G suggested, everybody that's not in the Discord, get in our Discord. Zero G suggested we do something with the Forked group to buy one of those NFTs, because it's only 5,000 DYAD. We could maybe buy several of them. And then as a group, we manage the game, because it's a game. You got to listen to the episode. The game is awesome. It's
let's everybody awesome. In the We're Forked Club listen. I don't know if there's other dialogue going on directly with you, Brad, but listen to that episode and let's team up on this.
Post it in the group. Jump in,
because I like this, because the games, you got to have a team in there to not control but influence these games in the right way. So yeah, very cool, man. All right,
I'm getting a lot of great feedback from that. And tomorrow, the episode with Jackie and Yev is dropping. If you're thinking about founding a project, find out about cooperatives, because from my perspective, it's a fantastic way to go. So everybody take a listen on that one as well. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Niblets, Sean, Shizzy, for participating and contributing. We love you guys. Appreciate that you're always here to help out. And again, as always, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and click the little bell on YouTube so that you get notified when new episodes come out. And if you have any ideas, feedback, thoughts about the show, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. B05 Crypto on Twitter and Telegram, B05 Crypto #2143 on Discord. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Joe, thank you very much.
You got it, buddy. Thanks to all the listeners.